So the book I'm holding here is about investing. It cost me just short of $30, and it has in fact led directly to a decision that made me the best part of $1 million. It sounds bizarre, but it's true. And what I want to do in this video is talk you through the process of how I came to buy this book, but also how that book influenced me significantly from that particular point, and how it directly led to me making the best part of $1 million.
Yeah, the question I wanted to ask you, I've been an investor for many years and done very well following a similar sort of style to yourself. So thank you for that. The big question I have is...
Would you want to quantify that in terms? I mean, you can always send us a check.
Well, if there's a deal to be had, maybe we can speak afterwards.
Okay.
So one of the things I want to do in this video is to talk to you about opportunities, because opportunities are absolutely everywhere if you're looking for them. And there's a phrase that I have that is positive minds find opportunities, negative ones problems. And I've seen this repeat endlessly throughout my life. My very first sort of job that I had within the industry that I wanted to work within was a very basic job. I was working for a software distributor and I got paid the princely sum of £80 a week. Not exactly earth-shattering amounts of money. But this put me into a position where I could start to sort of move up that career ladder and do more interesting things. And when I was there, I spotted an opportunity because these guys would obviously ship all of their software out all over the country, 5 days a week to various locations. But at the weekend, the warehouse was dormant and there was all of this stock in the warehouse doing absolutely nothing. So I came up with this idea where I would take the stock on sale or return and actually start selling the software at the local market. They thought it was a bit of a weird idea, but they were willing to give me a chance. It turned out that by turning up at all of these markets and selling all the latest versions of the software at a discounted price, I actually had a reasonably viable business. And that directly led to me, when I left the software distributor, of setting up my own office. And when I set up my own office, I started to buy in stock in bulk from a number of other places and start reselling it myself by a mail order, but also going round to retailers and so on. This was my first attempt at running a business. Unfortunately for me, my timing was wrong, because what actually happened was that we entered a recession at that particular moment in time. It was very difficult to run a business under those circumstances, and therefore my first venture into that world actually failed. I couldn't continue to make it viable. I worked really hard to make it work, but at the end of the day, it just couldn't work. So at that point, I decided I needed to go back into conventional employment. So working for somebody else wasn't really going to be the thing that I wanted to do. I always wanted to go up another level or do something more interesting. I didn't want to be stuck in a dead-end job. So I was always looking for opportunities all over the place. When suppliers would visit us, I would always talk to them and find out what they were doing, how they got their job, what jobs are available, all of this sort of stuff. And I also had loads of little side hustles as well. So when I would finish my normal work, through the customers that I met in that particular job that I had taken, they began to get to know you. They began to realize that you had a certain skill set. So I would go around and help a financial advisor and train all of his staff on computers and so on, and how to use different bits of software and do little bits of work for him, hooking up printers and just sorting stuff out, basically, because he didn't have anybody that could do that. And through that, I learned a little bit more about investing. And, when I was with him, we would sit down and discuss stuff, and I'd ask him questions about what he was doing. And I'll never forget seeing a ledger. And I was saying, what's this? And he's going, oh, this is a ledger. What is it? Blah, 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 blah. And I said to him, okay, so, you buy shares, and then at some point in the future, you can sell those for a profit. So what's this line here? And he goes, oh, those are dividends. And it's like, what's a dividend? He goes, well, you get paid. The company pays you to own the shares. And I was thinking, hold on, things go up in value, you get paid to hold them. I'm really interested. So that was my first spark in terms of interest to do with investing. I thought, I really need to get to understand this a bit more. So I spent a lot of time with this guy, and I worked for him and he paid me to do it. But I learned a lot about how, at a basic level, investing worked. But I was always looking for the next step up. And to cut a very long story short, one of the things that happened to me was one of the suppliers that used to come in and do some training for us. I got to know very well, interviewed for one of the jobs there, and they ended up giving me that job. And that led to a really interesting stage of my career. So when I landed this new job, it was a big step up from where I had been, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity that gave me. And I worked as hard as I could within that particular role to do the best that I possibly could. I was fully committed to it and wanted to do everything that I could to make an impression, to do another step up. And the interesting thing was, this was a large American company. And one of the first things that they said to me was, how would you like to go to headquarters in Houston? And it was like, okay, yeah, I'd love to be able to do that. And part of that particular trip was looking after some customers. So we had to entertain them. We did all of the formal stuff. We sort of went and did a picture outside of headquarters. But then we flew down to San Antonio, went along the canals there and had dinner on a barge. We went to the Alamo and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, the whole trip was a real eye-opener to me. It's the first time I'd done anything like that in my life. And it was exhausting, but it was great fun. So before I actually caught the plane back, I went into a bookstore, just casually flicked over lots of different types of books. And I was always interested in people's stories and how they got to where they were and stuff like that, because that's what I was trying to replicate. I was trying to look for an opportunity to do something special. So I thumbed up and down the aisle, looked at this particular book, picked it up, and the rest, as they say, is history, because it was hugely influential. It cost me $27.50. And I started reading the book on the plane on the way home, and I literally could not put the book down. It was like no book that I'd ever read before. All of the information within there was completely new to me and exciting and invigorating. And it was a significant influence on my life. So what was the book, and what did it make me do? So what was this book that had me so enthralled for the flight back from Houston? Well, the book was called The Making of an American Capitalist. And you're thinking, never heard of it. And lots of people have never heard of it. And they wouldn't have heard from it then, because the subject matter was sort of considered relatively niche, because the subject matter was about Warren Buffett. And it was about the story of how, where he came from, how he got to where he was, and about his company called Berkshire Hathaway, as they pronounce it in the US. And when I read this book, I just couldn't put it down. I was absolutely fascinated by the whole thing. And because of the investing knowledge that I'd gained in that prior job, I'd started buying shares. And all of a sudden in front of me was this book talking about this person and this company that he ran. And I thought, well, I must buy some shares within this particular company. But I didn't realize at that particular moment in time just how much each one of these individual shares could cost, because back then, this was in the early 90s, you were talking about sort of 10 to 20,000 pounds, depending upon what the stock market was doing, to buy one individual share. So I'll never forget phoning up the broker saying, can you buy shares in this company for me? How many would you like to buy? One. Because like everybody was like, what's this company? Who's this person? And why is it so expensive? And so on. But the reason that I wanted to buy a share in this company was not only because of the investing side of it, but because it would give me an invite to the annual general meeting. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the AGM. I wanted to meet this guy and other people that were shareholders of this particular company and just learn as much as I could, immerse myself in the whole thing. I wanted to learn what he was doing and why, how that could influence what I was doing. But also, when you think about it, you know, buying a share or shares in his company would allow me to benefit from his knowledge indirectly, because he could effectively manage the money for me. So that's what I did. I bought one share in Berkshire Hathaway, or Berkshire Hathaway as they pronounce over there. And then I decided that this would be my opportunity to go and visit him. But because I was in a conventional job, the prospect of actually going to the AGM seemed a little bit distant. But nonetheless, that was my objective. Buy the share, become an own part of his company, and eventually get to the AGM.
Welcome to Bloomberg Tomorrow Tonight. A look at the stories that will be making headlines tomorrow. I'm Charlie Pellet. Tomorrow, Buffett will be in Omaha for the highly anticipated Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting. Still, says shareholder Peter Webb, it will be an enjoyable gathering.
I suppose it's a big get-together of almost of a brotherhood, really, I suppose. With 20-odd thousand people, it's difficult to describe it as a family any longer, I think. But, yeah, it's a great meeting to meet like-minded people and to get an appreciation of what Buffett and Berkshire stands for.
So because I was sidetracked on a conventional career, it took me the best part of 10 years to actually break out and do my own thing. I never would have guessed in a million years that thing that would make me break out and do my own thing would be betting on horse racing, which is basically what I do nowadays, or it's one of the things that I do, because obviously I have a diverse range of interests, fingers in many pies, and all of that. But yeah, when I took that opportunity to go off and do my own thing, one of the first things that I did was I jumped on a plane and went to the Berkshire Hathaway AGM. And there was an added incentive in here as well, because I knew that Buffett would meet international shareholders. So that, was a huge, huge deal. You actually get the chance to sit down, have a chat. And one of the things that I would do, because I thought nobody's ever going to believe this, is I used to get them to sign things. So I've got a whole collection of different things that have been signed by either Buffett, Gates, or Munger, or sometimes all of them at once, to reflect that sort of special moment that I shared. But the other interesting thing is you meet other people as well. So when you go and do these events and you're a little bit more adventurous and you put yourself out there, you very often meet loads and loads of interesting people. And the amount of people that I've met through those particular meetings and that particular circle of sort of friends and people that are involved in all of that scene, suddenly branches off and leads to all sorts of incredible stories that I could go on about for hours, but I'm not going to in this particular story. But the most interesting thing that happened to me was there was a little bit of press interest around here as well. And I did do a number of interviews for people, because the novelty of somebody flying right around the world to just go to a company AGM was pretty unique at that particular moment in time. But the interesting thing about doing those interviews is listen to the summarizing comments here and the price that Berkshire Hathaway was when I did that interview.
Are you happy with the shares' performance this year?
It's obviously could be a lot better, but certainly in terms of most value investors, price is not as important as the value that's within the share itself. So certainly I think that there's enough value within there, but I think the price is lagging its intrinsic value at the moment.
Peter Webb heading off to his fourth Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting. Berkshire shares today up $749. 84,350, volume 760 shares. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all higher today. The S&P higher by 13 to 1156. The Dow up 122 points. NASDAQ gained 17. Coming up, a preview of next week's Fed meeting.
So the success of Warren Buffett is in no doubt. He's done incredibly well over a long period of time. And basically, if you'd bought his shares at pretty much any point in history, you would have done incredibly well as well. And when I bought these shares in the early 90s, I mean, if we bring up an interactive graph, you can see the sort of average price that these shares were around that particular period of time. You may have balked at buying any of them at that particular moment in time because it just seemed madness to do so. But look what has happened since. The price is almost exponential. And recently, they crossed over the $800,000 mark. It's absolutely incredible. Now, there is a story behind this, which I could go into. For example, he doesn't issue dividends. And because his internal return on capital is so high, he reinvests the money. And that's why you're getting that exponential growth. It's basically compound growth that you're seeing there. And, there are so many points at which you could have possibly decided that that wasn't a good idea, or perhaps you shouldn't have bought anything or so on. But when you get into that mode, and you understand the business well enough, you really begin to get it. You totally understand what he's doing and why and so on. But also, it doesn't mean that you have to follow it exactly. I'm a great believer, and you should take this from me as well, that what you're there to do is to build on, stand on the shoulder of giants, build on what people have done before, put your own angle on it, take a different approach, or perhaps do things slightly differently, take it to the next level. So that's what I've been trying to do throughout most of my career, is to take what other people have done, but elevate it to another level. And it's the same on the investing side as well. But when you look back at all of the things that have happened that led up to this particular moment, that led me to do those sort of things, the most important lesson that you can get from all of this is that you must look for opportunities. Opportunities everywhere when you see it. It's a state of mind. And I know people who've been with me on this journey at one point or another who never saw the opportunity, or thought I was mad doing one thing or the other. And the thing is that when you look for problems, you will find them. But when you look for opportunities, you will find them too. They're created in equal proportion, but human nature is to be a little bit cautious and fear making a mistake. Whereas my recommendation to you is that when you are going out doing something, make mistakes, look for opportunities, realize that maybe it doesn't pay off or that you're heading down the wrong path temporarily. But there are loads of opportunities out there, and you don't need many of them to work out in order to do spectacularly well. So yeah, if you go out there and do it and it doesn't work, that's fine. Just park it, move on, do the next one, because eventually it's inevitable that you will find one of those opportunities. And that's exactly what I found when I bought that book back in the early 90s. I never figured out that something that cost $27.50 would end up making me the best part of $1 million.